Philosopher George Santana said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." I'm not so certain this advice still applies because the changes we are living through are so profound. However, we all know that the emergence of the knowledge economy is the fourth economic revolution of human history, so there are some historical precedents we can consult. And we need as much reliable knowledge as we can find in this world of uncertainty. For one thing, the speed and accuracy of digital technology generates knowledge and change at a rate that humankind has never before experienced. At the same time, the ideological and military standoff that defined the Cold War has been replaced by social and political disorder of such global scope that there are few signposts to follow. The world has become at once a place of vast opportunity and potential dangers. Since we can't stop the world and get off, we have to face these realities with the best information we can gather. This is what I want to talk to you about: acting successfully in a time of uncertainty by pursuing world-class innovation and value with the help of global benchmarking. We'll approach our topic in two parts. In this first module, I want to share with you some observations about the challenges and opportunities that globalization presents as the new millennium unfolds. Then, in the second module, we'll look at global benchmarking as a leadership tool for uncovering the strategic advances of innovation, value, and security. Balanced geopolitical power, as defined by Richelieu and Macgregor, was turned on its head with the fall of the Berlin Wall. This void has been filled by a kind of global chaos theory, where the only predictable order is disorder. In the absence of a West versus East standoff, both old and new nations are engaged in invigorating pride in their indigenous language, traditions, and religion, while at the same time pursuing modernity. Unfortunately, in too many instances, cultural and religious extremism has exacerbated these dual objectives, leading to a rise in racial and religious tensions. Also, East Asian economies are emerging as both bullish markets of opportunity and growing consumers of the world's diminishing resources. And throughout the world, the explosion of vital knowledge is keeping nations and organizations scurrying to take advantage of the changing environment while maintaining their stability and positive growth. A few years ago, John Naisbitt forecast that the world's paradigms were changing from an East-West view of world order to more localized thinking and practices. Remember, think globally, act locally? While it indeed happened and has provided expanding opportunities for world trade, however, despite Naisbitt's fond wish, there is no guarantee that world trade will automatically prevent conflicts. We shouldn't forget that in 1913, international trade was at record highs, but it didn't stop trading partners from slaughtering one another just a year later. As the peoples of the world are redefining themselves based on their historical values, religion, and cultures, it offers unique opportunities to think globally and act locally. But such a narcissistic approach to world affairs can also generate fear and hostility where none is warranted. For example, the West is often seen as a culture trying to dominate the world with its movies, fast foods, and avant-garde styles. We need to remind ourselves and our prospective customers what Samuel Huntington has noted. The essence of the West is the Magna Carta, not the Magna Mac. Ever since the emergence of civilizations, cultures have assimilated and purchased other cultures' icons and products without threat to their own. Japanese cars and TVs have not made either South or North Americans Japanese. Neither will Big Macs or Levi's make Saudis Americans. That said, we still have to recognize that religious militancy and unreasoned aggressive competition for vital, finite resources will produce tension, and occasional hostility will interfere with global commerce and cooperation. Our nations and leaders face significant challenges to maintain order and peace. In such a world, the first challenge to our organizations is to keep moving forward despite the social turmoil that may swirl around us. Managing through this requires great resolve and dexterity, a willingness to take strategic risks, and an understanding of the critical drivers of wealth creation in this new economy. The sheer unpredictability of what waits ahead demands that we maintain major strategic commitments to the future of our organizations, and that we build our organization's confidence on a bedrock of knowledge and certitude about our organization's capabilities and limitations, our markets, products, processes, and expectations. We must hold on to the long-term trends that remain important to the creation of future wealth: new markets, new technology, continual innovation, and entrepreneurialism, all the while adjusting and adapting to different and unfamiliar business and social realities. This is why I think that most successful organizations over the next 5 to 10 years will be those that embrace 3 key actions. First, the reality of globalization. As technical, regulatory, and cultural barriers around the world are amended or outright disappear, organizations that have limited themselves to their domestic markets will need to enter global marketplaces. To assure their survival, they will need to offset competitors from other nations by entering the markets of those nations. Second, diversification. Companies that have been strong in specific markets can no longer count on that strength enduring into an uncertain future, and therefore must learn to transfer their successful strategies from one market to another and from one industry to another. Third, progressive business models. As consumers have become more value and conscious and price sensitive, several world-class organizations like Walmart, Dell, Toyota, DeLonghi, and Embraer have pioneered and extended low-cost products and services of high quality, sacrificing margins for market share. Such business models are here to stay and will have to be adapted by any organization that desires to compete in the global market. Innovation consultant John Cow often asks 2 questions when he speaks to groups. First, he asks, how many feel that innovation is fundamental to the future of your organization? Usually 80% plus raise their hands. Then he asks, how many can describe your organization's system for producing innovation? He has never had an audience where more than 5% raised their hands. This illustrates a key dilemma regarding innovation in our organizations. We all want it, but few believe that we possess systemic practices that can produce innovation in a reliable and continuous manner. Cow's experience underscores that there is a vast gap between the desire for innovation and making it so. We need to recognize that innovation practices are in step with the speed, uncertainty, and volatility of the new economy, don't exist by themselves. Until you have practices that go beyond brainstorming or simply tweaking a new product development process, you will not achieve strategic innovation. To achieve strategic innovation, 3 things must exist in the organization. First, everyone in the organization must know that a system exists, what it is, and how it operates. Second, it has to work. I mean, there exists documented evidence that a product or a process innovation was identified, evaluated, and implemented by the system. Third, the innovation produced is providing ongoing value of some kind for the organization. That leads us to another key subject that is often discussed in our organizations without a clear definition: value. The word value is quite overused. There's value adding, creating value, stock value, market value, economic value. It goes on. These are not bad things. Generating value for investors, customers, and employees is the most important function management can perform. But in today's chaotic marketplaces, how do you really know that you are providing value to your stakeholders? In the new economy, where do you find value? University of San Francisco management professor Oren Harari has suggested 3 areas. First, intangibles. Just as intangible factors like organizational size and mass are useful for economies of scale, purchasing power, and marketing leverage, intangible factors is the critical difference in competitive advantage. These are factors like speed, agility, imagination, talent, and innovation. An organization with a large balance sheet but a small cadre of intangibles is a big, weak company. Today, investors are looking for organizations that possess highly focused, market-driven intangibles. That is why companies like Martha Stewart Living, Juniper Systems, and Cybele Systems are well capitalized. It is why Cisco Systems is valued at nearly 10 times that of General Motors, even though the revenues of General Motors are nearly 10 times that of Cisco. Value is not in size, it is in the intangibles. Second, the web. Organizations that utilize the World Wide Web are stronger than those who don't. Successful organizations are driving the internet into the core of every part of their operations, from the back office to sales, from R&D to customer service. For example, over 75% of Cisco Systems and Dell Computers' business, from supplier relations to customer interaction to internal audits to recruiting, is online. Third, networks. Today's successful organizations are fast and smart, and they are that way for 2 reasons. First, they keep lean and trim by having other organizations perform their non-mission critical functions. Second, they harness talent from around the world by joining forces with value-producing partners through alliances, mergers, joint ventures, and outsourcing, forging a concentrated, focused network. Home Depot, for example, sources its logistics and transportation functions to FedEx, and Chevron Texaco partners with AOL and IBM in a variety of web-related ventures. Networked organizations have forged a fundamental shift from vertically integrated, self-sufficient, all things to all people organizations to organizations defined by a handful of great core competencies joined together as a suite of interdependent relationships with equally specialized, talented allies. The less distraction you keep in-house, the more you reach out to others in collaboration, the more successful you will be in the new economy. Now, let's consider how organizations demonstrate value, especially to their shareholders and customers. Organizations who are succeeding in terms of shareholder return, investor enthusiasm, customer delight, and market awareness are providing at least one of 3 values. The first is unique value. In the new economy, where fragmentation, saturation, and constant upheaval are trademarks, unique equals value. Ambitious vision statements and strategic plans aside, what an organization is doing that is unique, special, and different is what really sets it apart from its competitors. Timepiece maker Swatch is a good example. Swatch's mission has little to do with selling wristwatches. It's about providing joy through fashionable timepieces, including web-accessible watches that allow you to save time, not merely tell it. And most important is that their customers and investors recognize that unique value. Next is breakthrough value. What do FedEx, CNN, Siebel Systems, and Palm have in common? They created new markets. In the new economy, with fast, innovative competitors vying for the customer's attention, value comes not from incremental improvements to the status quo, but from breakthroughs. Today's leaders develop market spaces that didn't previously exist. There's also an important corollary to this. Customers don't request breakthroughs. In the new economy, you can't wait for market research to tell you what customers might want in the future. Customers didn't ask for overnight delivery, cable news, customer relations management software, or PDAs, personal digital assistants. In the new economy, smart companies demonstrate value by leading customers, not just by responding to their current desires. And the third is customized value. Mass production and mass marketing are no longer the value drivers they once were. Today it's about markets of one. Capital One, for example, has 29 million holders of its credit cards, and very few of them have the same terms. The company's digital capacity allows it to instantaneously canvass scores of thousands of possible combinations, so that a person with a lousy credit history and a fondness for jazz gets a card with an entirely different set of financial and marketing arrangements than does someone with a great credit history and a love of soccer. A Saturn purchaser can design their own car's accessories, colors, and powertrain specs online while receiving one-to-one, face-to-face consulting help from their local dealer. In the new economy, customized products and personalized services are a growing way that customers conclude that they are receiving true value. Once you have determined how other organizations are using these three dimensions, you can tap into their best practices and build them into your own strategic plans. You will then be able to create sustainable value for this new economy. Using global benchmarking, you can uncover the most productive and applicable examples of innovation process and identify value that can work in your organization. Of course, all of the innovation and value leadership in the world will not matter if your organization, work processes, employees, marketplaces, and customers are not secure in our increasingly insecure world. There is a new popular police comedy on the USA Network called Monk. The principal character, Adrian Monk, played by actor Tony Shalhoub, is a private detective who became obsessive-compulsive following the death of his wife. His psychological disorder has caused him to develop abnormal fears of virtually everything: germs, heights, crowds. The show is actually very clever and very funny. However, what grabs me is the theme song. The theme song for this show was written by Randy Newman, and it could be the theme song for the world in which we compete. In part it says, "It's a jungle out there. Disorder and confusion everywhere. No one seems to care. Hey, who's in charge here? It's a jungle out there." Our organizations are being threatened from a variety of disruptive sources. Terrorists that threaten the societies in which we operate, our delivery systems and infrastructures, and our employees. Criminals who seek to gain through theft and extortion, even kidnapping. Adult and teenage computer hackers corporate thieves, including, unfortunately, employees for whom ethics and loyalty have no significance. To successfully pursue innovation and value, we must have security. This is nothing new. Security is among the oldest of human needs. While it has evolved through the ages, the basics remain the same. The better an individual or organization understands their vulnerabilities and how to protect against exploitation of those vulnerabilities, the better the chance for survival. The function of organizational security over the years has been to identify potential vulnerabilities and to counter them or make them less attractive to potential attackers. Unfortunately, security threats and vulnerabilities to business operations and the implementation of effective security practices to thwart them have become more critical and sophisticated. Computer and network technology, regulations and standards, risk governance, even the basic role of security professionals have and will continue to undergo rapid change in the new economy. A security professional could probably give you more salient advice on how to do this, perhaps, but since I once managed a security organization, I think I'll give it a try. First, in this day and age, organizations must integrate security into their strategic planning. The starting point is an audit of your organization's vulnerabilities and the probability of their being exploited. If you already have completed a security audit and have a plan to protect your assets, information, and people, then you are ahead of the game. If not, you need to look to your industry to identify the best practices for a full vulnerability assessment process that you can implement as quickly and cost-effectively as possible. The areas where you need professional input are the audit and the security planning process. Benchmarking can also help you in determining costs and budgets, resources, deployment, training, and methods of assuring stockholders, employees, and customers about your organization's security situation. Of course, it is vital to keep such information confidential since it could provide a blueprint for an attack on your organization. A well-conducted threat assessment will help you focus the organization on which real-world threats have the potential to impact your business and how you can best mitigate against those risks. Of course, there are many professional consultants who can help, but I urge you to look to global organizations to see how they are addressing their own security issues. Some organizations to consider as benchmark sources are Coca-Cola and its affiliate companies, Israel's national airline, El Al, Merrill Lynch, Mitsubishi, and Chevron Texaco. The opportunities of globalization are out there all over the world, ready to be tapped if we are bold enough to tackle and deal successfully with most of the challenges I have described to you today. Thank you.
Let's begin with the first question and answer session. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. Therefore, we ask that only one question be asked per phone call and that these questions be as brief as possible. You may call the studio directly at the phone numbers or fax which appear on your screen. We remind you to make your phone calls at a distance from the monitor to avoid feedback. I believe our first question is coming from Santo Domingo. Go ahead, please.
I've heard that in the benchmarking model, you learn from the experience of others. The question is that we can also learn from the motto that risk has to do with our experience. So, and this uncertainty also produces fear. So how could we balance these concepts out?
Good question. We do learn primarily from our experiences, and in those experiences we learn primarily from our failures. Any organization that wants to think of itself as a learning organization needs to develop both a mentality and the processes by which you can document your experiences, document your key learning points, document your mistakes and the lessons learned from those mistakes in such a way that they can be shared throughout the organization. And as people are able to see that these kinds of things are a learning opportunity, the anxiety levels become reduced.
Okay, very good. Our next question is from Medellin, Colombia. How can a small to medium-sized company that does business in a small city enter the global market? Is that possible for a small entity to enter the global business?
The short answer to that question would be the web. Certainly there are organizations, there are small companies throughout the world who have established web pages and are promoted and build their opportunities from the World Wide Web. Another means is by affiliation and association with other organizations that already have established their global market position. And by searching those kinds of companies out, mutual arrangements can be made where you can ride their coattails while providing them other kinds of services. Whether it is the web, whether it is affiliation and mutual association, depends on your product and your services.
Great, thank you. We go back to Santo Domingo for our next question. Go ahead, please.
He experiences some technical difficulties. We'll come back to that question.
All right, very good. Let me go back to questions that have arrived through fax. And this next question, when you say customers don't request breakthroughs, do you mean you shouldn't consult or survey customers? I'm not...
No, I don't mean that.
All right.
It is extremely important. I'm a great advocate on surveying customers, engaging customers in your business planning. But what I'm saying is that depending on what your business is, as you develop opportunities and you see them as opportunities that represent breakthroughs, don't walk away from them because they're not necessarily part of what your current business is. Don't turn away from them because it's not necessarily what your current customer base would use. If the opportunity is real, take advantage of it. And if you find that you can't take advantage of it, sell it to someone else, but don't abandon it.
Great. Very good. Next question comes from Peru. Go ahead, please.
I'm a student of the Ricardo Palma University in Lima, Peru. And my question is the following. If the clients don't ask what they don't know, how can we really implement this unique value concept within the organization? Thank you very much.
I didn't quite hear the beginning of that question, but value, first of all, you have to determine what is value in your organization. Whether it's value for the customer, whether it's value for your own operations. For example, if the customer regards time engaged in your operation, whatever it may be, getting their car repaired, waiting at a checkout stand, if having that accelerated is valuable to them, then you know that time becomes the value, and you can establish measurements for time. If value to you is a return on an investment, you can establish the measurements for that. But first of all, you must define what value is to your organization, to your industry, and to your customers.
All right, thank you. Go to Ecuador for our next question. Go ahead, please.
Alberto Loja, and I'm a student of the University of Espíritu Santo. And my question is focused in terms of if, for example, if we try to implement a new company here where we would have to compete with multinational companies, and if we apply benchmarking, for example, I don't know if we could actually compete and be competitive with less capital.
Again, it'll depend what is the market, what is the product or the service that you are pursuing, and benchmarking can tell you what you need to do to be successful within your own organization and what are the best practices that need to be employed. And after that assessment, if you conclude that even with the best use of those best practices that you can't compete, well, that's an important piece of knowledge, too. You know, as Thomas Edison once said, instead of 20,000 failures in trying to create the light bulb, he found 20,000 things that didn't work. Well, that's all that was, and you can use benchmarking for that purpose.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your questions, and let's now move to the second module of our program.